They put a single mom in a millionaire CEO's room. Nobody expected what came next. Today, this story isn't just about a millionaire CEO and a single mother. It's about what money can't buy and what 3 kids taught both of them for free. The door opened, and Emily Jensen had exactly 3 seconds to process what she was seeing. A man, tall, impeccable suit, standing in the middle of the suite like he owned the place. Actually, by the look on his face, he probably thought he did. "Who are you?" he asked, with that tone only people used to giving orders can have. Emily blinked, looked at the key card in her own hand, looked at the number on the door, looked back at the man. "Who are you?" she responded in the same tone. Before either of them could say anything else, a small 8-year-old hurricane ran between Emily's legs, crossed the entire room, and threw himself onto the white leather sofa like it was a trampoline. "Mom!" Oliver yelled, bouncing on the cushions. "This place is bigger than our house." Emily closed her eyes for a second, took a deep breath. It was true. It was embarrassingly true. "Oliver, get off the sofa," she said, trying to maintain some dignity. "But Mom, it's so soft. It feels like those clouds from fabric softener commercials." The man in the suit looked at Oliver, then at Emily, then back at Oliver, who was now lying on his stomach, making imaginary snow angels on the Italian leather. "Is this your son?" he asked. "No, I found him in the hallway and decided to take him for a walk," Emily responded, unable to contain her sarcasm. "Of course he's my son." Lucas, her oldest son at 12 years old, appeared at the door with headphones around his neck and the expression of someone who would rather be anywhere else on the planet. "Mom, is this the right room?" "Apparently, that's an open question." The man in the suit took a step forward. "Look, I don't know who you are or how you got the key to this suite, but I made this reservation 6 months ago, personally, with the general manager, and I won this stay in a contest." Emily crossed her arms. "Legitimately, complete with a stamped voucher and everything." "Contest?" He repeated the word as if she had just said she won the suite in some random raffle. "Yes, a contest. Do you know what that is? That thing normal people do when they can't just buy everything they want?" Oliver stopped bouncing on the sofa and looked at the man with genuine curiosity. "Mom, is he rich?" "Oliver? It's just that he looks rich. Rich people always make that angry face, like that neighbor on the 3rd floor who complains when we ride our scooters in the hallway." The man opened his mouth to respond, but was interrupted by a voice coming from the hallway. "Dad, what's going on?" A teenager appeared at the door. 16 years old, maybe. Dark hair, eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world, and an expression of boredom so refined it had probably been cultivated over years of practice. "Nothing, Sloan," the man answered. "Just a small misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" Emily almost laughed. "Sir, you're in my room." "Technically, ma'am, you are in mine. It's Miss. And I have a voucher. And I have a reservation." Oliver, who had apparently gotten bored with the sofa, was now exploring the suite like a little anthropologist discovering a lost civilization. "Mom, there's a bathtub the size of a pool," he yelled from the bathroom. "You can swim in it. You can have a party in it." "Oliver, don't touch anything." "Too late. I already touched everything." Emily rubbed her temples. This trip was supposed to be a dream. A week at the Golden Tide Resort in Florida. The kind of place she only knew from travel magazines and those TV shows about luxury resorts that she watched late at night after the boys were asleep, imagining what it would be like to have a life like that. And now she was there. In paradise. Arguing with a man in a suit about who had the right to be in paradise. The irony was not lost on her. That's when the manager appeared. A middle-aged man, sweating heavily with a nervous smile that seemed to have been glued to his face with tape. "Mr. Callahan, Mrs. Jensen," he gasped, clearly having run all the way there. "Please allow me to explain." "It's Miss," Emily corrected again. "Miss Jensen, yes, of course, my apologies." The manager wiped his forehead with a handkerchief. There was a small setback. Setback? The man in the suit, apparently named Callahan, crossed his arms. "What kind of setback?" The manager swallowed hard. "Our reservation system went through an update last week, and well, it seems there was a duplication." "Duplication," Emily repeated. "The presidential suite was booked twice." Silence. Oliver came out of the bathroom chewing something. "Mom, I found chocolate in the minibar. Can I eat it?" "Oliver, you're already eating it." So can I eat more? Emily ignored her son and turned to the manager. All right, then give us another sweet. Anyone will do. The manager laughed nervously, the kind of laugh that meant absolutely nothing good. That's the problem, Miss Jensen. The resort is completely full. Full, Callahan repeated. We have a corporate event taking up the entire East Wing, a wedding in the West Wing, and a convention of— He consulted a crumpled piece of paper. Aquarium enthusiasts in the North Wing. Aquarium enthusiasts? Emily couldn't hide her disbelief. It's a very popular hobby, apparently. Callahan ran his hand through his hair, clearly trying to maintain his composure. So what exactly are you suggesting? The manager looked from one to the other. Then at Oliver, who was now opening a second chocolate bar. Then at Lucas, who hadn't even moved from the door. Then at Sloane, who was watching everything with an expression of, I'd rather be anywhere else. The presidential suite has 3 bedrooms, he said cautiously. Technically, it can accommodate both families. Are you suggesting we share? Emily asked. With a complete refund of the stay for you, of course, and a significant discount for Mr. Callahan, plus all meals on the house. And unlimited spa access. And no, Callahan cut in. Absolutely not. I agree, Emily said, for the first time aligned with the man in the suit. This is absurd. Oliver appeared between them with melted chocolate at the corners of his mouth. Mom, I want to stay. This place is amazing. There's free chocolate, and the bathtub is the size of a pool, and the sofa feels like a cloud. Please, pretty please? Oliver, I promise I'll behave. I promise I won't run in the hallway. I promise I won't yell. He thought for a second. Okay, maybe I'll yell a little bit, but only from happiness. Emily looked at her son, then at Lucas, who for the first time since they arrived seemed slightly interested in the surroundings. Then at the view from the balcony, that absurdly blue ocean she had only seen on postcards. When she won that contest, it felt like a sign from the universe. She had worked extra shifts at the bookstore for months just to be able to buy new clothes and decent luggage for her and the boys. She couldn't afford the trip, but she could at least make sure they arrived looking presentable. Was the universe having a day of questionable humor? I need a minute, she said. I need an entire suite, Callahan responded. Oliver tugged at the sleeve of his suit. Hey, mister, are you really rich or do you just look like it? Callahan looked down at this little human being covered in chocolate who was staring at him with genuine curiosity. Work a lot. My dad says that too, but we still live in the same apartment. I think he's doing it wrong. Emily wanted the floor to open up and swallow her, but at the same time she couldn't help noticing that, for a fraction of a second, something changed on Callahan's face. It wasn't a smile. Far from it. But it was something. Sloane, his daughter, remained standing at the door. She hadn't said a word beyond that first question. She was just watching, and there was something in her eyes that Emily recognized. She had seen that look before, in the mirror, on the hardest days after the divorce. It was the look of someone carrying an invisible weight that no one else could see. The manager cleared his throat. So, what have we decided? Emily looked at Callahan. Callahan looked at Emily, and they both said at the same time. Temporary, just until you figure this out. First thing tomorrow morning. The manager nodded frantically, clearly relieved he hadn't been fired on the spot. Of course, of course. First thing tomorrow. I'll personally check all the options, all of them. Even the service rooms, if necessary. He practically ran out of the suite. And then for the first time, Emily and Grant Callahan really looked at each other. Not as adversaries fighting over territory, but as two people who had just realized the night was going to be very, very long. Oliver broke the silence. So, can I get more chocolate? 30 minutes later, the presidential suite at the Golden Tide Resort had been officially divided like a poorly negotiated peace treaty. And nobody was happy. I'll take the master, Grant announced, pointing to the door on the left. You take the second bedroom. And who decided that? Emily crossed her arms. Logic. I made the reservation first. Logic also says that someone with 2 kids needs more space. Oliver appeared between them, still with traces of chocolate on his face. Guys, I can sleep on the sofa. It's softer than my actual bed. You're not sleeping on the sofa, Emily said. But Mom, Oliver? Fine, he sighed dramatically. But I want it on the record that I made a very generous offer and nobody accepted. Sloane, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. "I'll take the third bedroom," she said without looking at her father. "Alone?" Grant frowned. "Sloane, you can stay in the same room as me. There are 2 beds. I prefer to be alone." "But, Dad, alone." The tone left no room for discussion. Grant opened his mouth, closed it, and finally nodded. Emily observed the exchange in silence. There was something there, something she couldn't fully decipher, but that she recognized in the edges. "All right," Grant said, recovering his composure. "Now that the rooms are settled, we need to establish some basic rules of coexistence." "Rules?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "Rules, to ensure that this temporary situation works in the most civilized way possible." He pulled a notepad from his jacket pocket, because apparently he was the type of person who walked around with a notepad in his pocket. "First, hours of use for the main room. I suggest alternating 3-hour shifts." "Shifts?" Emily almost laughed. "This is a hotel suite, not a factory." "Second," Grant continued, ignoring her, absolute silence after 10 at night. "My kids are 8 and 12 years old. Do you know what absolute silence means to an 8-year-old? Third, the minibar will be divided equally. Each family gets 1 shelf." Oliver tugged at Emily's sleeve. "Mom, I already ate 3 chocolates from his shelf." "Oliver, I didn't know there were sides." "Chocolate is chocolate." Grant closed his eyes for a second, clearly counting to 10 mentally. "Fourth, the balcony will be a common area, but with mindful use and—" Emily couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed the notepad from his hand, tore off the page with the rules, and in 3 precise movements turned the paper into a paper airplane. "What are you doing?" Grant asked, incredulous. "Giving your rules a better purpose." She launched the airplane from the balcony. It glided gracefully for a few seconds before disappearing into the ocean breeze. Oliver applauded. "Mom, that was amazing." Grant looked at where the airplane had disappeared. Then at Emily, then back at the ocean. "That was hotel property," he said finally. "It was a piece of paper. With perfectly reasonable rules. With completely absurd rules." Lucas, who had sat down on the sofa with his phone, murmured without looking up, "You two sound like a couple arguing about who forgot to pay the electric bill." Emily and Grant turned to him at the same time. "We don't sound like a couple," they said in unison. Lucas shrugged. "If you say so." Sloane let out something that could have been a laugh, but quickly turned it into a cough when her father looked at her. The night didn't get any better. The resort's restaurant was one of those places with light wood tables, a view of the illuminated pool, and a buffet that made Oliver's eyes shine as if he had found a treasure. "Mom, Mom, Mom, there's a chocolate fountain over there." "I see it, Oliver." "A fountain of chocolate. This actually exists." Grant and Sloane were already seated when they arrived, at the same table, because the universe apparently thought a shared suite wasn't enough torture. The manager insisted. Grant explained without enthusiasm. "Single reservation for the presidential suite." "Wonderful," Emily murmured, pulling out her chair. Oliver sat next to Grant before anyone could stop him. "Hey, suit guy, why are you wearing a suit at a resort? Nobody wears suits here. That guy over there is wearing flip-flops, and that lady is in a bikini with a cover-up. Didn't you bring vacation clothes?" "I have appropriate clothes," Grant responded, adjusting his tie. "Is a tie appropriate for the beach, Oliver?" Emily intervened. "Leave the man alone." "I'm just trying to help, Mom. He looks uncomfortable." "I'm not uncomfortable," Grant said. "You're sweating. It's hot." "Then take off the tie." Grant opened his mouth to respond, but couldn't find an argument. Oliver had an irritatingly irrefutable logic. A friendly waitress approached with a smile. "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Golden Tide. The buffet is open, help yourselves. If you need anything, just ask." "Buffet!" Oliver practically shouted. "For the love of all that is sacred, buffet!" "Oliver, don't yell," Emily said. "Sorry." He turned to the waitress with sparkling eyes. "Ma'am, is the chocolate fountain also available?" The waitress laughed. "Available and unlimited, sweetie." Oliver turned to Grant with wide eyes. "Did you hear that? Unlimited. That means I can go back as many times as I want?" "Technically, yes," Grant responded. "How many times?" "There's no official limit, but today is the best day of my life." Oliver shot off toward the buffet. Emily got up to go after him, but Lucas was already on his feet. "I'll go, Mom. If someone doesn't supervise him, he'll build a tower of food." Emily looked at her oldest son with gratitude. "Thank you, sweetie." I'm just protecting my access to the chocolate fountain. If Oliver causes an incident, they might ban our table." He left before Emily could respond. At the table, Emily, Grant, and Sloane remained. The silence was almost tangible. "So," Emily tried, "do you come to this resort often?" "Every year." Grant responded, "It's a tradition." "Nice. Traditions are nice." Silence again. Sloane sighed and stood up. "I'm gonna get food." "Do you want me to go with you?" Grant asked. "I know how to serve myself. I'm 16, not 6. She left. Grant kept staring at his empty plate. Emily couldn't hold back. "Are you two okay? Why wouldn't we be?" "No reason. Forget it. It's just the age," he said after a moment. "Teenagers are complicated. I know, I have a 12-year-old. But your complicated seems more complicated." Grant stared at her. For a second, Emily thought he was going to completely shut down. But then he let out a breath. It's been a difficult year. Before Emily could ask more, Oliver returned, balancing a plate that defied all laws of physics. "Mom, look at this. I got a little of everything. There's chicken, there's potatoes, there's that green thing, I don't know what it is, but it looked cool. There's bread, there's cheese, and there's something I think is shrimp, but it might be something else." "That's a lot of food, Oliver." "No, it's not. This is the right amount. The wrong amount would be less than this." He sat down and began eating with the concentration of a scientist conducting an important experiment. Lucas returned with a considerably more modest plate. Sloane, too, though she had barely put any food on hers. The dinner continued in a surprisingly tolerable manner. Oliver, between bites, decided that Grant was his new research project. "Do you have a dog?" "Why? I travel a lot." "And a cat?" "Also no." "Fish?" "No." "Do you have any animals?" "No, Oliver." "Not even a plant?" Grant hesitated. "I had a cactus." It didn't survive." Emily almost choked on her water. "You managed to kill a cactus?" "Cacti survive in deserts. Apparently they don't survive in my office." "What did you do to it?" "I didn't do anything. That was the problem." Oliver shook his head seriously. "You need a fish. Fish are easier. My mom killed 3, but then she gave up." "Oliver," Emily exclaimed. "What?" "It's true. You said yourself that fish hate you." Lucas let out a laugh through his nose. Sloane hid her face behind her napkin. Grant looked at Emily with something that seemed suspiciously close to a smile. "So cacti and fish aren't your strong suit?" "My kids are alive and healthy. That's what matters." "Fair enough." Oliver finished his plate and looked toward the dessert buffet with determination. "Mom, I'm going to the chocolate fountain now." "You ate that whole plate and you still have room?" "Dessert goes to a different stomach. It's science." "That's not science." "Yes, it is. The stomach for salty food is different from the stomach for sweets. Everyone knows that." Grant cleared his throat. He's technically not entirely wrong. There's a concept called sensory-specific satiety that... Oliver turned to him with adoration. "See, Mom? Science. You're not helping," Emily said to Grant. "I was just not helping." Oliver had already run to the chocolate fountain before anyone could stop him. Lucas sighed. "I'll go supervise." Again. When he left, Sloane stood up abruptly. "I'm going to my room." "You barely touched your food," Grant said. "I'm not hungry." "Sloane, good night." She left without looking back. Grant stood there, staring at the empty chair. Emily felt a pang of something. She didn't know if it was pity or recognition. "Is she always like that?" Oliver asked, having returned with a plate full of chocolate-covered strawberries. "It's just that she seems sad. Sad people need chocolate. It works for me." Grant didn't respond. He just kept staring at the chair. Later, after the boys finally fell asleep, Lucas with his phone under his pillow, Oliver hugging one of the extra pillows he had decided to adopt, Emily locked herself in the bathroom. She sat on the edge of the bathtub, that enormous bathtub, the size of a pool, as Oliver had said, and she let a tear escape. Just one. She was so tired. Tired of working double shifts and still never being able to give her kids half of what other families had. Tired of smiling when she wanted to cry. Tired of hearing comments like the one Sloane had made earlier when she thought Emily wasn't listening. People who win contests shouldn't be staying in presidential suites. She wiped her face, took a deep breath, and looked at herself in the mirror. "You're here," she said to her own reflection. "Your kids are happy. The rest doesn't matter." When she came out of the bathroom, the lights in the living room were off. But there was someone on the balcony, Grant Callahan, alone, looking at the sea. And for the first time since they arrived, he didn't look like a millionaire CEO. He just looked like a man who also couldn't sleep. The next morning, Grant Callahan showed up at the beach in shorts and a t-shirt. Emily almost dropped her orange juice. "What?" he asked, noticing her look. "Nothing. It's just that you have legs. Everyone has legs." "I know, but I thought yours were made of suit fabric." Grant rolled his eyes, but Emily noticed he was trying to hide something that looked suspiciously like a smile. Oliver, of course, had no filter. "Mom, the suit guy isn't wearing a suit," he yelled from the other side of the deck, pointing as if he had spotted a unicorn. "He looks like a normal person now." "Oliver, don't point," Emily said. "But Mom, this is historic. It needs to be documented." Grant approached, clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "Your son said a tie wasn't appropriate for the beach," he murmured to Emily. "He was technically correct." Oliver is usually technically correct about a lot of things. It's annoying. An hour later, Emily was on the lounge chair trying to read a book. Trying, because Oliver had decided the beach was the perfect place for a construction project. "Mom, I'm going to build the biggest sandcastle in the history of humanity. Good luck, sweetie." "I don't need luck. I need dedication and strategic planning." "Where did you learn those words?" "From a documentary about ants." "Ants are very organized, Mom. We should be more like ants." He ran to the water's edge with a small bucket and began his work. Emily returned to her book. Lucas was beside her, headphones in their usual place, looking at his phone. Sloan had stayed in the suite, claiming that the beach was overrated. And Grant? Grant was sitting a few lounge chairs ahead, answering emails on his phone, because apparently not even shorts and a t-shirt could take him out of work mode. But Emily noticed that, every now and then, he looked at Oliver. Oliver, who was completely alone, building his castle with the determination of a little engineer. 20 minutes passed. Emily saw Grant put away his phone. She saw him stand up. She saw him walk toward the water. And she saw him kneel in the sand, right next to Oliver. "Need some help?" Grant asked. Oliver looked at him with suspicion. "Do you know how to build a sandcastle?" "I build actual buildings for a living. It can't be that different. It's very different. Buildings don't melt when a wave comes." "Good point." "Okay, you can help, but I'm the boss." "Fair enough." Oliver pointed to a pile of sand. "Start by making a tower there. But it has to be solid. The foundation is the most important thing." "Do you know what a foundation is?" "I know what a foundation is, Oliver. Just checking. You did let a cactus die." Emily covered her mouth to keep from laughing. Grant started working on the tower. Oliver supervised with the seriousness of a building inspector. No. It's crooked." "It's not crooked." "Yes, it is." Oliver tilted his head. "See? Crooked. That's because your head is tilted. My head is perfectly straight. The tower is what's wrong. Do it again." Grant looked at the tower, looked at Oliver, and, to Emily's surprise, demolished the tower and started over. "You're really slow," Oliver commented while Grant worked. "Like, really slow." "My mom is slow too, but she has an excuse because she works a lot." "What's your excuse?" "I also work a lot." "Doing what?" "I have a technology company." "Like computers?" "Like computer programs." "Is that cool or boring?" Grant considered the question. "Depends on the day." "Is today cool or boring?" "Today." Grant looked at the castle, at the ocean, at the 8-year-old boy who asked impossible questions. "Today is different." Oliver nodded, satisfied with the answer. "Are you rich because of the computers?" "Oliver," Emily called from a distance, in a warning tone. "It's a scientific question, Mom," he yelled back. Then he lowered his voice to Grant. "It's a scientific question." "I make good money," Grant responded diplomatically. "Do you have a boat?" "No. But you could have one?" "Probably." "And a beach house?" "I have an apartment in San Francisco." "An apartment isn't a beach house." "No, it's not." Oliver stopped building and looked at Grant with genuine curiosity. "Why are rich adults always sad?" Grant blinked. "What makes you think I'm sad?" "You make the same face my mom makes when she thinks nobody's watching." Oliver went back to working in the sand as if he hadn't just said something profound. "My mom gets sad because my dad left, and because she works a lot, and because sometimes the money runs out before the month does." "What's your reason?" Grant didn't respond immediately. Emily held her breath, watching from a distance. "It's complicated," Grant said, finally. "Adults always say that. It's complicated. But usually it's not." Usually it's simple, you just don't want to talk about it. You're very smart for 8 years old. I know. My mom says I was born old. Grant laughed, a real laugh that seemed to surprise even himself. Emily felt something strange in her chest, something she couldn't identify. Beside her, Lucas took off his headphones. For the first time since they arrived, he wasn't looking at his phone. He was looking at Oliver and Grant. And there was something on his face that Emily recognized immediately. Jealousy. Not the petty kind. The sad kind. The kind that comes from wanting something you don't know how to ask for. "Mom," Lucas said quietly, "do you think—" "Never mind." "What, sweetie?" "Nothing. Forget it." He put the headphones back on, but he didn't go back to looking at his phone. He kept looking at the beach, where Oliver was now teaching Grant how to make a moat around the castle. "No, the water goes here. Here. Did you never do this when you were a kid?" Grant was silent for a moment. "No," he said finally. "I didn't." "Never? My dad was very busy. And you were busy too?" Grant thought about the question, thought about Sloane, thought about all the years he spent working while she grew up. "I was," he admitted. "I was very busy." "That's sad," Oliver said, with the brutal honesty of children. "You missed out on a lot of cool stuff." Grant looked at the boy, then at the slightly crooked castle they were building together. "Yeah," he said, his voice strangely hoarse. "I did." Emily wiped away a tear she didn't even realize had escaped. And up in the suite, on the third-floor balcony, Sloane was watching everything. The father she barely recognized, kneeling in the sand, laughing with an 8-year-old boy. Doing something he had never done with her. Sloane came down from the balcony an hour later. Not because she wanted to, but because watching her dad play with someone else's kid was starting to hurt in a way she didn't want to examine too closely. The resort pool was enormous, with those infinity edges that seemed to blend into the ocean. Sloane chose the lounge chair farthest from everything and everyone, put on her sunglasses, and opened her book. Peace. Finally. "That's my favorite." Sloane looked up. Emily was standing there with a towel over her shoulder and a smile that seemed too genuine to be fake. "What?" "The book." Emily pointed at the cover. "It's my favorite." "It's a lot of people's favorite," Sloane responded, turning her eyes back to the pages. "It's practically a cliché to like it." "True, but clichés exist for a reason." Sloane didn't respond. It was the classic, "if I ignore her, she'll go away" technique. Emily didn't go away. Instead, she sat on the lounge chair next to her, as if she had been invited. "What part are you at?" Sloane sighed. Clearly the technique wasn't working. "The ball. When he insults her for the first time." "Ah, the tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me part." Sloane lowered the book, slightly surprised. "You know the line by heart? I worked in a bookstore for 10 years. I've read this book about 15 times. Some lines get engraved in your memory." "You work in a bookstore?" "I manage one. In Brooklyn. Small, kind of messy, smells like old books. The kind of place people think doesn't exist anymore." Sloane took off her sunglasses. For the first time, Emily saw her eyes without barriers. "That's actually cool. You seem surprised." "It's just that adults usually have boring jobs, like offices and spreadsheets and meetings about meetings. My job also has spreadsheets, but at least the spreadsheets are about books." Sloane almost smiled. "Almost." "What's your favorite part?" she asked, pointing at the book. "The letter," Emily responded without hesitation. "When he explains everything and she realizes she judged wrong. It's the moment when they both really start to see each other. Most people mention the final marriage proposal. Most people are superficial." This time Sloane smiled for real. "Adults who think this book is a cliché don't deserve an opinion," she said. "I completely agree. They should lose the right to talk about literature, and be banned from entering bookstores and libraries and anywhere that has books. Basically, exiled to an island without culture." Sloane laughed. A small laugh, kind of rusty, as if it hadn't been used in a long time. Emily felt a pang in her chest. She recognized that sound. It was the sound of someone who had forgotten how to laugh. "Do you read a lot?" Emily asked, keeping her tone light. "Whenever I can. It's the only place where things make sense." "Books." "Stories. In a book, you know there's going to be an ending. It might be happy or sad, but at least you know there's going to be an ending. In real life?" Sloane paused. "In real life it's messier." Emily nodded. "Yeah, it's a lot messier. Silence, but not the uncomfortable kind. The kind that exists between people who understand something without needing to explain. Does your mom also like to read? The question came out before Emily could stop herself, and the moment the words left her mouth, she saw Sloane close off. Not completely, but enough. She used to. Sloane looked at the book in her hands. She gave me this book, this specific edition. When I turned 13, Emily felt the weight of that verb tense. Used to. Past. It's a beautiful edition. It's the only thing I have from her that... Sloane stopped, swallowed something. Never mind. Emily didn't push, didn't ask what had happened, didn't offer empty condolences. Instead, she said, "Do you know what I think is the most beautiful thing about this story?" Sloane looked at her, clearly grateful for the change of subject. What? That she doesn't change who she is to be with him. She stays stubborn, opinionated, difficult, and he loves her for it, not despite it. Most romances don't work that way, Sloane said quietly. Most romances are written by people who don't understand real love. Whoever wrote this book understood. Sloane was silent for a moment. My mom used to say the same thing. Emily felt the weight of that sentence. All of it. She sounds like she was a very intelligent woman. She was, nothing more. But nothing more was needed. On the other side of the pool, Grant was watching. He had left the beach after Oliver was dragged away by Emily to put on sunscreen for the third time. And Grant, not knowing what to do with himself, had gone to the pool and found this. His daughter, talking, laughing, with a stranger, doing something she hadn't done with him in months. Years, maybe. He should be happy. He should be relieved. His daughter was smiling. That was good. That was great. So why did it hurt so much? You make that face too. Grant turned. Lucas was beside him, without the headphones for once, looking in the same direction. What face? That face of someone who wants to get closer but doesn't know how. Lucas shrugged. I make the same face when I think about my dad. Grant didn't know what to say. She's your daughter, Lucas continued. Why don't you go over there? It's complicated. Adults always say that. It's complicated. But usually it's not. Usually it's simple. You're just scared. Grant looked at the 12-year-old boy who spoke as if he had lived much longer. Scared of what? Of hearing the truth, maybe? Lucas looked back at Sloane and Emily. My dad never comes to see me. And when I was younger, I thought it was because he was busy. Now I know it's because he's scared of finding out he doesn't know how to be a dad. The silence between them grew heavy. You're too young to talk like that, Grant said quietly. And you're too old to not go talk to your daughter. Before Grant could respond, Oliver appeared running, covered in sand and with a huge ice cream cone in his hand. Lucas, look what I got. The guy at the bar said it was the biggest one they had. Did Mom let you get that? She's gonna let me when I tell her. It's practically the same thing. Lucas rolled his eyes but smiled. Grant stayed standing there, looking at the daughter he didn't know how to reach, while a stranger made it look so easy. That night, the suite was strangely quiet. Oliver had passed out after eating 3 desserts at dinner. Sloane was in her room, probably reading. Emily had gone to bed early, claiming exhaustion. And Grant found that he couldn't do the same. That's when he heard sounds coming from the living room, and a low voice murmuring, "No, no, no," repeatedly. Grant left his room and found Lucas on the sofa, lit only by the television light, with a controller in his hands and an expression of absolute concentration. What's this? Grant asked. Lucas jumped. Wow, you scared me. He paused the game. It's just a building game. Sorry if the sound was too loud. It wasn't. Awkward silence. Grant should go back to his room. That's what normal people did. Say goodnight and leave. But he remembered what Lucas had said at the pool, about being scared to get closer. Can I watch? He asked before he could regret it. Lucas looked at him as if he had just asked to see an alien spaceship. You wanna watch? If it's not interrupting. No, it's just that. Lucas frowned. Adults usually aren't interested in games. I'm an exception, apparently. Grant sat on the sofa, leaving a respectful space between them. Lucas unpaused the game, clearly uncomfortable with the presence. On the screen, a character ran through a scenario full of constructions, collecting resources and building structures. What's the objective? Grant asked. Survive. Build things. Don't let the monsters get you. Sounds simple. Lucas let out a laugh. It sounds like it, but it's not. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Grant watched, genuinely trying to understand the logic of the game. Why did you build a wall there? He asked. For protection. But there's an opening on the left side. That's the door. Oh. Pause. And why is the door so big? So I can get through. But can't the monsters get through too? Lucas paused the game again and looked at Grant. Do you want to try? I don't know how to play. I'll teach you. Before Grant could refuse, Lucas was already handing him the controller. This button is to walk. This one is to jump. This one is to build. And this one is for, well, you'll find out. That's a lot of information. You run an entire company. You can press 4 buttons. Grant held the controller as if it were an alien object. On the screen, his character stood still, staring at nothing. Walk, Lucas said. I'm trying. You're pressing the wrong button. Which one is right? The one on the left. Grant pressed. The character jumped. That's the jump button. You said left. The other left. There's only one left, Lucas. Apparently not for you. Grant's character finally started walking, straight into a hole. Watch out for the too late. The screen went dark. You were defeated appeared in big letters. What happened? Grant asked. You fell in a hole. Why is there a hole there? Because the game has holes. That seems like a design flaw. Lucas was clearly trying not to laugh. Try again. Grant tried again and again and again. On the 5th attempt, he finally managed to walk without falling into any holes. He found a tree, tried to go through it. The character got stuck. Why won't he go through? Because it's a tree. So what? You can't walk through trees. But it's a game. You should be able to do anything. That's not how it works. Grant pressed all the buttons at the same time. The character jumped, spun, and somehow managed to get himself tangled in his own construction. You were defeated, appeared again. Lucas couldn't take it. He started laughing. A real laugh, the kind that makes your whole body shake. How do you own a company? He asked, between laughs. Seriously, how? Companies don't have treacherous holes in the middle of the path. Yes, they do. You just call them market challenges. Grant looked at the boy with surprise. That was very clever. I pay attention to things. They kept playing. Or, rather, Lucas played, and Grant asked questions that ranged from, why is that monster green? To, is there a union for video game characters? At some point, without realizing it, the two had moved closer together on the sofa. My dad never wanted to play with me. The sentence came out of Lucas so naturally that Grant almost didn't notice the weight of it. Never? He always said he was going to learn, that the next weekend we would play together. But the next weekend never came. Grant stayed silent. Derek, he's not a bad person, Lucas continued, his eyes fixed on the screen. He's just absent, like a ghost who sometimes shows up, promises a bunch of things, and then disappears again. That must be hard. It was at first. Now I just stopped expecting. Lucas's character stopped moving. On the screen, the digital sun was rising. You know what's worse? He said quietly. Oliver still believes. Every time my dad calls saying he's going to visit, Oliver gets excited, and every time he cancels, I have to make up an excuse so Oliver won't be sad. Grant felt something tighten in his chest. You shouldn't have to do that. Someone has to. You're 12 years old. So what? So taking care of your brother isn't your responsibility. Lucas finally looked at him. If it's not mine, whose is it? Grant didn't have an answer, because the truth was brutal and simple. Sometimes kids grow up too fast because the adults around them fail. He knew this. He had done this. With Sloane. The realization hit like a punch to the stomach. Here he was, sitting on a sofa at 11 at night, learning to play video games with a stranger's son. Doing something he had never done with his own daughter. Hey, Lucas called, interrupting his thoughts. Your turn. He extended the controller to Grant. I'm going to fall in the hole again? Probably. But then you get up and try again. That's how it works. Grant took the controller. This time, he managed to walk for almost 30 seconds before being attacked by a green monster. Improved, Lucas said. I still lost. But you lost better than before. Grant laughed, and realized it was the second time he had truly laughed on this trip. They played for another hour. When Lucas finally yawned, Grant checked the clock. You should sleep. You too. Fair enough. Lucas got up but stopped before going to his room. Hey, Grant? Yes. Thanks for staying. Grant nodded. Good night, Lucas. Good night. The boy disappeared down the hallway. Grant stayed alone in the dark room, looking at the game screen, and thinking about all the nights he could have stayed, if only he had tried. Grant was still in the living room when he heard the balcony door slide. Emily appeared, in pajamas and hair tied in a messy bun, holding a glass. She stopped when she saw him. "Oh, I thought everyone was asleep." "So did I." Awkward silence. "I was going to get some air," she said, pointing to the balcony. "I was going to." Grant looked at the video game controller still in his hand. "Apparently, I was going to stand here holding this." Emily almost smiled. "Want company? On the balcony, I mean, not holding the controller." Grant should say no. It was late. They barely knew each other. Sharing a suite was already strange enough. "Sure," he said. 5 minutes later, the two were sitting in the balcony chairs, each with a glass of something Emily had found in the minibar. "Is this from your side or mine?" Grant asked, looking at the bottle. "Honestly, I lost count. Oliver ate everything identifiable. So technically, we're stealing from each other. Or sharing. Depends on your perspective." Grant took a sip. It wasn't bad. The ocean glittered under the moon. From that angle, it looked almost unreal. Like a postcard someone had forgotten to finish. "Do you always stay up late?" Emily asked. "Always. My mind doesn't shut off easily." "Mine doesn't either." She sighed. "With 2 kids, the quiet of the night is the only time I have to think." "And what do you think about?" "Usually, everything I should have done differently." Grant raised his glass. "Cheers to that." They laughed together, and something shifted. The air became lighter, the barriers lower. "Can I ask you something?" Emily said after a moment. "You're going to ask anyway, aren't you?" "Probably." She turned to him. "Why do you come here every year alone with Sloane?" Grant was silent for a moment. He swirled the drink in his glass. "It was my wife's favorite place." Emily didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't offer empty condolences. She just waited. "Clara loved this resort," Grant continued. "She said it was the only place where I could disconnect, where I became a real person instead of a working machine. And you keep coming, every year with Sloane. It's what Clara wanted, for us to have at least 1 week a year being a real family." "When did she?" 6 years ago. Sloane was 10. Emily felt the weight of that sentence. "I can't even imagine. At first, neither could I, so I did the only thing I knew how to do, work. I worked more, built the company, had meetings, closed deals, traveled the world. Ran away." Grant looked at her, surprised by the frankness. "Yes," he admitted. "I ran away, and I left Sloane behind in the process. She needed a father, and I gave her a credit card and a nanny. You're here now, physically, but she barely talks to me, and I don't know how to fix it." Emily took a long sip. "You want to know something? I don't know how to fix things either." Grant raised an eyebrow. "The boy's father," she explained. "Derek, he's not a bad person, he just never grew up. You know those guys who think life is a big adventure and responsibilities are optional? I know a few." "Right, I married one." She laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "At first it was charming. He was a musician, a dreamer, full of plans. I was in my early 20s and thought love was enough to make everything work. And it wasn't? Love doesn't pay rent, doesn't take kids to school, doesn't show up for your son's birthday because a gig came up in another city." Grant stayed silent. "Lucas carries a weight he shouldn't have to carry," Emily said quietly. "He takes care of Oliver. Makes up excuses when his dad cancels. He became the man of the house at 12 years old. I noticed. He's impressive, in a sad way. Kids shouldn't need to be impressive. They should just get to be kids." The silence between them grew heavy, but not uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that exists between people who have just shown something true. "We're quite a pair, aren't we?" Emily said with a half-smile. "A single mom who doesn't know how to make her kids stop waiting for a father who isn't coming, and a widowed father who doesn't know how to reconnect with his daughter." When you put it like that, it sounds like a bad movie, or a really good one. Depends on the ending. Their eyes met and stayed. "Emily," Grant said, his voice lower than before. "Yes? I don't know if I know how to love again." The sentence hung between them, heavy and light at the same time. Emily didn't respond immediately. She just looked at him. Really looked. "Maybe you don't need to know," she said finally. "Maybe you just need to want to try. And if I mess up, you will mess up. Everyone does. The question is whether you stay or run away again." Grant set his glass on the table. Emily did the same. Somehow they had moved closer. The chairs seemed nearer now. Or maybe they had leaned in without realizing it. "You're very direct," Grant said, almost in a whisper. Would you prefer I lie? No, I prefer exactly this. He raised his hand, hesitated, and then slowly tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. Emily held her breath. Grant, I know, it's crazy. We've known each other for 3 days. 4, technically, because of a booking error, a very convenient error. She laughed, nervous. He didn't take his eyes off her. I'm going to do something, Grant said. And if you want me to stop, just say so. He leaned in, slowly, giving her time to pull back. Emily didn't pull back. Their lips were inches apart. She could feel his breath, the warmth of his body. And then, Mom, the balcony door burst open. Oliver appeared, rubbing his eyes, with his hair pointing in all directions. Emily and Grant pulled apart so fast they almost knocked over the chairs. Oliver, Emily was red as a tomato. What are you doing up? I had a dream about a giant shark selling ice cream. Then I woke up hungry. That makes sense. Oliver looked from one to the other, suspicious. Why are you so close? And why do you look guilty? We don't look guilty, Grant said. Yes, you do. It's the same face I make when I eat cookies before dinner. We were just talking, Emily said. Talking really close together. Oliver, go to sleep, okay. But you're acting weird. He disappeared back inside, muttering something about adults being strange. Emily and Grant looked at each other. He has the worst timing in the world, Grant said. Or the best, depends on your perspective. Silence, I should. Emily pointed inside. Yeah, me too. Neither of them moved. Good night, Grant. Good night, Emily. She stood up and walked to the door, stopped, looked back. Yes? Tomorrow, do we pretend this didn't happen? Grant stared at her for a long moment. I don't know if I can pretend. Emily smiled, a different smile. Softer. Me neither. She went inside. Grant stayed on the balcony, alone, looking at the sea, and thinking that for the first time in 6 years he didn't want to run. The next morning, Grant made a decision that surprised even himself. A boat trip, he announced at breakfast, as if he were presenting a business proposal. For everyone. Oliver dropped his spoon in his cereal bowl. A boat? You have a boat? I'm going to rent a boat, Oliver. But you said you didn't have a boat. And I don't. That's why I'm renting one. That's basically having a boat for a day. Oliver turned to Lucas. We're going on a boat. Lucas tried to look uninterested, but the corner of his mouth curved. Emily looked at Grant with a raised eyebrow. That's unexpected. I can be unexpected. You made a list of coexistence rules on the first day. People change. In 4 days? Apparently. Sloane didn't say anything. She just kept eating, her eyes fixed on her plate. Grant took a deep breath. Sloane, are you coming? I get seasick. You've never gotten seasick in your life. Maybe I developed it. Developed it? It's a medical condition. It can happen. Oliver leaned toward her. You can't miss this. There'll be dolphins. Probably, I think. Are there dolphins in Florida? He turned to Grant. Are there dolphins? It's possible. See, it's possible. Oliver turned back to Sloane. You're going to miss possible dolphins. Sloane rolled her eyes, but Grant saw the ghost of a smile. Fine, she said finally. But if I get sick, it's your fault. Fair enough, Grant responded. 2 hours later, all 5 of them were on a medium-sized boat, gliding through the crystal-clear waters off the Florida coast. Oliver was at the bow with his arms open, yelling, I'm the king of the world, repeatedly, until Emily pulled him back before he fell in the water. Oliver, for goodness sake. Mom, I saw this in a movie. And did the person in the movie survive? Sort of. Then sit down. Lucas was taking photos with his phone. For the first time since they arrived, he seemed genuinely interested in something that wasn't a video game screen. This is really cool, he murmured, more to himself than to anyone. Grant heard and smiled. Emily was beside him, the wind throwing her hair in her face. She hadn't tried to fix it. She seemed lighter that way. She said quietly, For what? For this. The boys have never... She stopped. We've never done anything like this. Never? Boat trips don't fit in a bookstore manager's budget. Grant wanted to say something, but couldn't find the right words, so he stayed silent. On the other side of the boat, Sloane was sitting alone, looking at the horizon. Grant approached, slowly, like someone approaching a frightened animal. Can I sit? Sloane shrugged. It's a free country. He sat. They stayed silent for a moment. The boat rocked gently. The sun was warm, but the sea breeze balanced it out. Your mom loved the sea, Grant said finally. Sloane didn't respond, but she didn't get up either. She used to say the ocean was the only place where problems seemed small. because compared to all that vastness, anything seems small. I know, Sloane said, her voice almost inaudible. She used to tell me that. She did? When I was little. Before? She stopped. Before. Grant felt his chest tighten. I should have brought you more often. You were busy. I was running away. Sloane finally looked at him, surprised. What? I was running away, Grant repeated. From the pain, from the memories, from everything that reminded me of her. And in the process, I ran away from you too. Sloane said nothing, but her eyes were glistening. I don't know how to be a good father, Sloane. I never did. Your mom was the glue that held everything together. Without her, he swallowed. I froze. Dad, I know that saying sorry doesn't fix 6 years. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But I want to try. If you'll let me. Sloane was silent for a long moment. The boat rocked. A bigger wave passed. I'm not angry at you, she said finally. You're not? I'm angry at myself. Her voice broke. Because sometimes I look at you and I miss her so much it hurts. And then I pull away. Because being close to you means being reminded that she's not here anymore. Grant felt a tear escape. He didn't try to hide it. I feel the same way, he admitted. Every time I look at you, I see her. The smile, the way you frown when you're annoyed, even the love of books. Books were hers, I know, and I never asked what you were reading, never sat beside you to talk about the stories. I left you alone with her memories. Guys, there's a dolphin. Oliver's voice cut through the moment. They both turned. Oliver was hanging over the side of the boat, pointing frantically at the water. There! There! Do you see it? Emily was holding him by his shirt to keep him from diving in headfirst. Oliver, I see it, but you need to stop throwing yourself overboard. But it's a dolphin, Mom. A real dolphin. Lucas was recording everything with his phone, laughing. This is going on social media. If you post that, I'll tell Mom about the cookie. What cookie? The cookie you stole from the minibar yesterday. Oliver. What? You started it. Grant and Sloane looked at each other, and for the first time in a long time they laughed together. It wasn't a forced laugh, it wasn't polite, it was real. They're crazy, completely. But like, the good kind of crazy. Yeah, they are. Sloane looked at her father. Emily is nice. Is she? She is. She listened to me, about Mom, about the books. She didn't try to fix it or give advice, she just listened. Grant nodded. She's good at that. You like her. It wasn't a question. Grant hesitated. I don't know. It's complicated. Adults always say that. It's complicated, but usually it's not. You're spending too much time with Oliver. Maybe. But he's right about some things. The boat made a turn. The dolphin, or dolphins, now there were two, kept swimming alongside them. Oliver was in absolute ecstasy. Dad? Yes. Thank you for today. Grant felt his heart expand. Thank you for coming. I was going to make more excuses, but Oliver convinced me. Oliver? He said if I didn't come, he would talk about dolphins for the rest of the trip, and I'd regret missing out. She shrugged. He's annoyingly persuasive. He's a force of nature. Is that a good thing? I think so. On the other side of the boat, Oliver was now trying to teach Lucas how to make dolphin sounds. The result was terrible. Emily was recording, laughing so hard she could barely hold the phone. Grant looked at that scene. Those people he barely knew a week ago. That loud and chaotic mess, and realized that, for the first time in 6 years, he felt part of something. Hey, Dad. Yes, I want to try too. Being a family again, if you still want to. Grant couldn't respond with words. He just pulled his daughter into a hug. Sloane resisted for a second. 2. And then relaxed. It was awkward. It was strange. It was imperfect. But it was a start. Guys, Oliver yelled. The dolphin did a jump, I swear. Nobody saw it, but he did. Oliver. Dolphins don't just jump out of nowhere, Lucas said. This one did. He's special. I'm going to call him Fernando. You can't name a wild dolphin. Fernando is already his name. He told me. Dolphins don't talk. You don't know their language. Grant and Sloane released from their hug, laughing. You know, Sloane said, this trip wasn't supposed to be like this. No, it wasn't. But maybe it's better this way. Grant looked at Emily, who was now trying to convince Oliver that Fernando probably had a family to go back to. Maybe it is, he agreed. And when the boat started heading back to the resort, something had changed. It wasn't big, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real. The entire resort seemed different that night. Hanging lights crossed the pool area like an artificial sky of stars. Tables decorated with candles and tropical flowers surrounded an improvised dance floor. A live band played on a small stage, and the smell of good food hung in the air. Tropical night, Oliver read the sign at the entrance. What's a tropical night? It's a party, sweetie, Emily explained. A party with food? Yes. And dessert? Probably. I love tropical nights. Grant appeared with Sloane, both dressed casually but nicely. He had traded the shorts for linen pants and a light shirt. Sloane wore a floral dress Emily had never seen. You came. Oliver ran to them. My mom is still getting ready. She's taking forever. Like, forever. I asked if she was making the outfit from scratch, and she told me to wait here. Grant smiled. Women take time to get ready. It's normal. You took a long time too, Sloane pointed out. I was working. You were choosing between two practically identical shirts for 20 minutes. They weren't identical. One was light blue and the other was slightly less light blue. That's the same color. It's not. Lucas was sitting at one of the tables looking at his phone. Mom said she's coming down now. She said that 15 minutes ago, Oliver complained. Yeah, but this time she sounded serious. She always sounds serious, but this time it was really serious. Grant was about to respond when he saw something out of the corner of his eye, or rather, someone. Emily was coming down the stairs that led to the pool area. She wore a dark blue dress, simple but elegant, that ended just above the knees. Her hair was down, wavy in a natural way. Subtle lipstick, small earrings that sparkled under the lights. Grant forgot how to breathe. Dad, Sloane nudged him. You're staring. He didn't respond. He kept staring. Dad, your mouth is open. Grant closed his mouth, opened it again, closed it. Oliver observed everything with scientific interest. Mom, he yelled, waving. Grant is making a really weird face. He looks like he saw a ghost, a pretty ghost. Emily approached, clearly embarrassed. Oliver, for goodness sake. What? It's true. Look at him. Grant finally found his voice. You look. He cleared his throat. You look different. Different? Emily raised an eyebrow. Not bad different. Good different. Different. He stopped. I should stop talking. Probably. Sloane leaned toward Lucas. Your potential stepfather is terrible at compliments. He's not my potential stepfather. Yet. Sloane. What? I'm just observing. Emily was red as a ripe tomato. We should sit down? For dinner? Yes, Grant agreed, relieved. Sit, dinner. Great idea. They found a table big enough for all five. Oliver immediately started evaluating the menu. There's shrimp, there's fish, there's chicken, there's what's lobster thermidor. Lobster prepared in a special way, Grant explained. Is it good? It's one of the best things you can eat. Better than chicken nuggets? Different from chicken nuggets, but better? Depends on your taste. If it's not better than nuggets, it's not worth it. The waitress came to take their orders. Oliver ordered regular chicken, please, without weird stuff on top. Lucas ordered fish. Sloane ordered salad, which made Grant raise an eyebrow. Just salad? I like salad. You like pizza. People can like salad and pizza. Since when do you like salad? Since I decided I do. Grant looked at Emily for support. She just shrugged. Teenagers, she said. I heard that, Sloane responded. The dinner was surprisingly peaceful, or as peaceful as possible, with Oliver asking questions every 30 seconds. Grant, do you know how to dance? Sort of. What does sort of mean? It means I won't step on anyone's feet, but I'm not going to win any contests either. My mom knows how to dance. She dances in the kitchen when she thinks nobody's watching. Oliver, Emily almost dropped her fork. It's true. You play music on your phone and spin around with the broom, Lucas confirmed with a nod. It's true. I've seen it. You two are both forbidden from talking for the rest of dinner, Emily declared. That's censorship, Oliver protested. It's survival. Grant was smiling. A real smile, the kind that transforms your whole face. I'd like to see that, he said. The broom dance. You're never gonna see it. Never say never. Their eyes met and stayed. Oliver nudged Sloane. They're doing it again. I know. Is this good or bad? It's adults being weird. The band started playing a slower song. Some people got up and went to the dance floor. Couples, mostly. Oliver watched for a moment, then turned to Grant. You should ask my mom to dance. Oliver, Emily began. What? It's obvious. You keep looking at each other. You keep smiling for no reason. You keep tucking hair behind ears. He turned to Sloane. Right? Sloane nodded. It's pretty obvious. Kids, Emily was mortified. Grant stood up. For a second, Emily thought he was leaving, that it had been too much, that Oliver had finally crossed a line, but then he extended his hand to her. "Would you like to dance?" Emily looked at his hand, then at him, then at the kids who were watching like it was the finale of a soap opera. "I don't know if you dance with the broom. I'm at least better than a broom. That's debatable. There's only one way to find out." Emily looked at the dance floor, at the lights, at the real stars starting to appear in the sky. "Okay," she said. She took his hand. The two walked to the dance floor. Oliver made a celebratory sound that was immediately muffled by Lucas. "Be quiet," Lucas said. "You're gonna ruin the moment." "I don't ruin moments. I create moments." "You interrupted them last night." "How do you know about that?" "The walls are thin." On the dance floor, Grant and Emily stopped facing each other. The other people around them seemed to have disappeared. "I don't know where to put my hands," Grant admitted. "You've danced before, haven't you?" "It's been a long time." Emily took his hand and placed it on her waist. Then put her hand on his shoulder, like this, like this. They started to move. Slowly, no rush. "Are you counting the steps?" Emily asked. "No." "Yes, you are. Maybe a little." "Stop counting. If I stop, I'll step on you. I'll survive." Grant stopped counting, and surprisingly, he didn't step on her. "You look more beautiful today," he said quietly. "You already said that in a very awkward way." "I know. I'm trying again." "And how's it going?" "From your smile, I'd say better." Emily laughed, a soft sound that made something in Grant's chest tighten. "This week has been strange," she said. "It has. I wasn't planning any of this. Neither was I." "And now?" Grant was silent for a moment. The music continued. They continued moving. "Now I don't want this week to end." Emily looked at him, really looked. "Me neither." Grant's hands tightened slightly on her waist. Emily moved a little closer. Their foreheads almost touched. "Emily." "Yes?" This time there's no child to interrupt. She looked back. Oliver and Lucas were busy arguing about something on the phone. Sloane was pretending not to watch. "There isn't." "So I'm going to do what I should have done last night." He leaned in, slowly, giving her time to pull back. Emily didn't pull back. Their lips met. Soft, brief, perfect. "Look." Oliver jumped from his chair, pointing. "Lucas, Sloane, are you seeing this?" "Everyone's seeing it, Oliver," Lucas said, but he was smiling. They kissed, in front of everyone. Sloane had her phone in her hand. "I recorded it." "You recorded it?" "For posterity." "What's posterity?" "It's to keep as a memory." "This is amazing, Mom." "Grant, are you dating now?" Emily and Grant separated, both red as peppers. The people around were looking, some smiling. An older lady applauded. "Oliver, for the love of—" Emily began. "It's a valid question. You kissed. Kissing means dating. That's how it works." "That's not exactly how it works," Lucas tried to explain. "Yes, it is. I saw it in a movie." Grant looked at Emily. Emily looked at Grant. "Your son," he said. "Sorry. Don't apologize." "Why not?" Grant looked at her, at the dance floor, at the stars, at the three kids who were now all standing watching like it was the final scene of a movie. "Because he might be right." Emily's eyes widened. "What? About the dating?" Grant shrugged. "If you want. Are you asking me to be your girlfriend? In the middle of a dance floor? With my kids yelling in the background?" "Apparently. This is very embarrassing." "I was going to say romantic, in a completely chaotic way." "So is that a yes?" Emily looked at him for a long moment. The music still played. The lights still shone. Oliver was still yelling something about wedding and party. "It's a yes," she said. "She said yes," Oliver screamed. "Lucas, Sloane, she said yes. We heard." "Oliver," Sloane said, but she was smiling. "For real?" Lucas shook his head. "Does this mean we're going to have to see each other more often?" "Probably," Sloane responded. "Cool. Do you play video games?" "A little. We should play together." "Maybe." On the dance floor, Grant and Emily were still standing there, hands intertwined, smiling like two teenagers. "This is crazy," Emily said. "Totally crazy. We met a week ago, because of a booking error. This shouldn't work, but it's working." The music continued. The lights shone, and somewhere between the mess and the chaos, two broken families had started to become something new. Nobody knew yet what it was, but for the first time, everyone wanted to find out. The next morning, the bags were packed, and nobody wanted to look at them. Oliver sat on top of his suitcase as if that could prevent their departure. "I'm not going," he declared. "You can go. I'm going to live here. I'll make friends with Fernando." "Fernando is a dolphin, Oliver." Lucas said. Dolphins don't live in resorts. Then I'll live in the ocean. With Fernando, we'll be happy together. Emily was folding the last clothes, trying not to think about the flight back. Oliver, you can't live in the ocean. Why not? Because you don't know how to swim properly. Details. On the other side of the suite, Sloane and Lucas were sitting on the sofa, each with their phone, but showing each other things and laughing quietly. Grant observed the scene. A week ago, his daughter barely spoke to him. Now she was laughing. With his girlfriend's son. Girlfriend. The words still felt strange in his head. Did you exchange numbers? Grant asked. Of course, Sloane responded, without taking her eyes off her phone. And all social media. Even that one you don't know about because you're old. I'm not old. You're 40 years old. 39. That's basically 40. Lucas nodded. She has a point. You're 12 years old. You can't agree with her. Why not? Because... Grant stopped. I don't have an argument. Then I can agree. Emily laughed from across the room. Grant looked at her. His girlfriend, it was still strange to think that way, and felt that thing in his chest again. That good thing he didn't want to lose. We should go downstairs, Emily said. Enjoy the last few hours. Last few hours, Oliver repeated dramatically. That sounds so sad, like the end of a movie. But the bad kind of movie, without a sequel. Oliver, we're going to see each other again, Grant said. I promised. Adult promises don't always work out, Oliver responded with a seriousness that didn't match his 8 years. My dad promises things all the time. The silence that followed was heavy. Emily approached her son. Grant isn't your dad, sweetie. I know. That's why maybe he'll keep his promise. Grant swallowed hard, looked at Oliver, at Emily, at the fragile trust in the eyes of this child who had already been disappointed too many times. I will keep it, he said. You can hold me to it. Oliver studied his face for a moment. Okay. I will hold you to it. I'm good at that, asked my mom. It's true, Emily confirmed. He still holds me accountable for an ice cream I promised in 2019. You never bought it. It was a $5 ice cream, Oliver. It was a promise, Mom. Promises don't have a price tag. Grant approached Oliver and crouched down to be at his height. Can I ask you something? Sure. Can we adopt you? Oliver blurted out before Grant could speak. Grant blinked. What? Can we adopt you? You're kind of annoying sometimes, but you learn fast, and you're good at building castles, and you let me eat dessert. Oliver, Emily intervened. We don't just adopt people like that. Why not? You adopted the neighbor's cat. That was different. It was a living being that needed a family. Grant is also a living being that needs a family. Sloane let out a laugh from the sofa. He has a point. Thank you, future sister, Oliver said. You're welcome, future brother. Grant looked at Emily with an expression of, what's happening? She just shrugged, smiling. The beach was almost empty that afternoon. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky orange and pink. The kind of sunset that looks fake because it's so beautiful. The kind of sunset that marks endings. The kids had stayed behind. Oliver was trying to teach Sloane how to build a sandcastle the right way. Lucas was recording everything to post on social media later. Grant and Emily walked at the water's edge, barefoot, hands intertwined, in silence. So, Emily said finally, tomorrow you go back to San Francisco, and you go back to Brooklyn. It's almost 3,000 miles. About 2,800 more or less. Did you look it up again? I looked it up yesterday, and today, and I'll probably look it up again tomorrow too. Emily squeezed his hand. How is this going to work, Grant? Long-distance dating, it's not easy. I know. I have 2 kids, a job, a whole life on the other side of the country. I know. And you have a company, a daughter, responsibilities. What? Are you trying to convince me this is a bad idea? She stopped walking, looked at him. No. I'm trying to convince myself that I'm not dreaming, that this is real, that a week from now you're not going to realize you made a mistake and disappear. Grant turned to her, held her face with both hands. I spent 6 years disappearing. From my daughter, from my life, from myself. He took a deep breath. I don't want to disappear anymore. And if it's hard, it will be hard. And if we fight, we will fight. And if it doesn't work out, then at least we tried. But I'd rather try and fail than spend the rest of my life wondering, what if? Emily felt her eyes sting. You're really good with words when you want to be. I had a week to practice. and an 8-year-old consultant who told me I need to say what I feel instead of keeping everything inside like a pressure cooker. Oliver said that? Those exact words. Emily laughed, a laugh wet with tears. He's too wise for his age. He's amazing. Both of them are. Grant looked back, where the kids were still playing. I want to be part of this, Emily, this whole mess. If you'll let me. I already let you, last night, in front of everyone. I know, but I wanted to make sure you hadn't changed your mind. In 12 hours? A lot can happen in 12 hours. Like what? Like you realizing you're dating a man who killed a cactus and lost 5 times in a row at a video game to a 12-year-old. Emily smiled. I already knew those things when I said yes. And you still said yes? And I still said yes. Grant leaned in and kissed her, slowly, softly, with a taste of both goodbye and promise. When they separated, the sun had almost disappeared. That was the 4th kiss. Oliver yelled from a distance. I'm counting. Why are you counting? Emily yelled back. Because someone needs to keep a record. He has a little notebook. Lucas added. He's writing everything down. Grant shook his head, laughing. Your son is a force of nature. I know. Do you still want to be part of this? More than ever. Sloane was a bit farther away, watching her father, with Emily, on the beach where their mother used to go. A week ago she would have hated this. She would have felt betrayed. She would have screamed, cried, locked herself in her room. But now she saw her father smiling. Really smiling. The way he hadn't smiled in 6 years. A tear rolled down her face. She wiped it away quickly. Are you crying? Oliver appeared beside her. No. Yes, you are. It's allergies. You've used that excuse before. It's a recurring allergy. Oliver sat down next to her in the sand. Are you happy or sad? Both. At the same time? At the same time. That sounds confusing. It is, but it's a good kind of confusing. Oliver nodded as if he understood perfectly. Hey, Sloane? Yes? I know I'm kind of annoying sometimes, and that I talk too much, and that I ask too many questions. True, but I think you're cool, and I'm happy my mom is with your dad, because that means we're going to be family. Sloane looked at him. At this 8-year-old boy who spoke truths without a filter. I'm happy too, she said, and for the first time she realized it was true. So we're siblings now? Technically no. But like siblings? Like siblings. Oliver smiled. The biggest smile in the world. Cool. I always wanted a sister. Lucas is cool, but he doesn't like building sandcastles. I don't really like that either. That's okay, I'll teach you. Just like I taught your dad. The sun disappeared over the horizon. The sky turned purple, then dark blue. The first stars began to appear. 5 completely different people were looking at the same sky. A week ago they were strangers. Now they were something different, something new, something that didn't have a name yet. Grant took Emily's hand. Sloane let Oliver rest his head on her shoulder. Lucas put away his phone for the first time in hours. I don't want to leave, Oliver said quietly. Me neither, Sloane responded. But we're going to see each other again, right? Yes, Grant said. I promise. And do you keep your promises? Yes. Oliver nodded, satisfied. What none of them knew was that reality was waiting, and it would arrive faster and harder than any of them imagined. 2 weeks, 2,800 miles, and 63 phone calls. Emily knew the exact number because Oliver was keeping a record, literally, with graphs. Mom, you talked 11 minutes less yesterday than on Monday. He announced at breakfast, holding a notebook full of notes. That's a 17% decline. Oliver, you shouldn't be timing my phone calls. Someone needs to keep the data organized. Relationships need metrics. Where did you learn that word? From a video about how companies work. Grant would like it. He likes metrics. Lucas didn't even look up from his cereal. You're so weird. I'm dedicated. It's different. At first it had been perfect. Grant called every night, sent messages during the day, made video calls where Oliver showed every drawing he had made, and Sloane and Lucas exchanged game recommendations. It was almost like the distance didn't exist. Almost. But gradually things started to change. The hour-long calls became 40 minutes, then 30. Then, sorry, I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later. Later sometimes meant the next day. Emily tried to understand. Grant had a company to run, responsibilities, a whole life on the other side of the country. She couldn't expect him to drop everything to be on the phone, but the insecurity grew. Silent. Like a plant you forget to water until you realize it's dying. Mom, you're looking at your phone again, Oliver observed. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You do it every 3 minutes. I timed it. Oliver, stop timing things. I'm just collecting data. Data doesn't lie. Lucas finally looked up. He hasn't responded yet? Emily sighed. He's busy. He's been busy for 3 days. They're important meetings. Mom, you don't need to defend him to us. We like him, but if he's being a bad boyfriend, you can tell us. He's not being a bad boyfriend. He's just… Emily stopped. Busy. The word sounded hollow even to her. It was that afternoon when the doorbell rang. Emily was on the sofa pretending to read a book while checking her phone every 2 minutes. Oliver was probably timing it from somewhere when she heard the sound. I'll get it, Oliver yelled, running to the door. Oliver, wait, you can't just open the door to… Too late. Oliver opened the door and froze. Hey, champ, a male voice said. Remember me? Emily felt her stomach drop. Derek Walsh, in all his unemployed musician glory, was standing at the door of her apartment, holding a bouquet of flowers, with that smile she had found charming 10 years ago and now just looked rehearsed. Dad? Oliver asked, his voice full of confusion. That's me. Surprise. Oliver looked at the flowers, then at Derek, then back at the flowers. You remember where our house is now? Want a map? Because you missed the way for the past 2 years. Emily almost choked. Derek laughed, nervous. Always the joker, huh? Can I come in? Mom? Oliver turned to Emily, clearly asking permission to close the door in his father's face. Emily stood up, walked to the door. Derek, what are you doing here? I know I disappeared for a while. 2 years. A considerable while, yes, but I've changed. For real this time. He extended the flowers. I came to win back my family. Lucas appeared in the hallway. What's going on? Dad showed up, Oliver said. With flowers. He wants to win us back, like those bad movies Mom watches when she thinks we're asleep. Oliver, Emily exclaimed. What? It's true. Derek looked from one son to the other. Boys, I know I made mistakes, a lot of them, but I'm here now. Doesn't that count for anything? Lucas crossed his arms. You said that in 2019, and in 2021, and in 2023. This time it's different. Why would it be different? Because Derek stopped. Because I realized what I lost. You realize that now? Lucas asked. Right when Mom is dating someone else? Derek's face changed. Dating? Emily closed her eyes. Derek, this isn't the time for this. You're dating someone? Who? That's none of your business. Of course it's my business. They're my kids. Kids you haven't visited in 2 years. Emily felt the anger rising. You can't just show up with flowers and think everything is forgiven. Oliver tugged at Lucas's sleeve. This is getting intense. Should we make popcorn? Oliver, for goodness sake, Emily said. Derek took a deep breath. Give me a chance. One conversation. That's all I'm asking. Please. I said no, Derek. You can see the boys if they want. But winning me back? That's not going to happen. Derek looked at his sons. Boys, don't you want Dad to come back? Oliver and Lucas looked at each other. No, they both said at the same time. Derek seemed genuinely surprised, and for the first time truly hurt. Okay, I understand. He left the flowers on the table by the door, but I'm not giving up. I'm going to prove I've changed. He left. The door closed. Silence. Well, Oliver said. That was weird. Does anyone want the flowers? I think they're pretty, but kind of suspicious. Gilt flowers are never good quality. Emily didn't respond. She was picking up her phone. She needed to tell Grant. She needed to hear his voice. She needed some assurance that what they had was real. She typed the message. Derek showed up here, with flowers, said he wants to win me back. I sent him away, but I thought you should know. Sent. She saw Reed appear almost immediately, and waited. 5 minutes, 10, 30, nothing, an hour, nothing. Oliver appeared beside her. Mom, you've been looking at your phone for 47 minutes. I timed it. Oliver, not now. He didn't respond? Emily said nothing. Oliver sat down next to her. Mom, do you think Grant is like Dad? No, sweetie. He's different. Then why do you look like you think he's the same? Emily looked at her son, at those eyes that saw too much for an 8-year-old. Because sometimes it's hard to believe people are different. When you've been disappointed a lot, you start expecting disappointment. That's sad. It is, but it's real. Oliver thought for a moment. You know what I think? What? That Grant is terrible at a lot of things. He's terrible at video games, terrible at sandcastles, terrible at relaxing, but he's not terrible at caring. He's just too busy sometimes. And what if too busy becomes always? Then we hold him accountable. You taught me that. Promises need to be kept. Emily smiled, despite everything. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just weren't paying attention. She hugged her son, tight. And when the phone finally buzzed 3 hours later, Emily was almost afraid to look. Grant's message said only, "Sorry for the delay. Meetings. Can we talk tomorrow?" Tomorrow. Not "Are you okay?" Not "Want me to call?" Not "I'm here for you." Just tomorrow. Emily looked at the screen for a long moment and wondered if tomorrow would be enough, or if tomorrow was just another word for never. Tomorrow turned into the day after tomorrow, which turned into next week, which turned into when things calmed down. Things never calmed down. Emily looked at her phone like someone looking at a broken clock, hoping it would work, knowing it wouldn't. Meanwhile, Derek wasn't giving up. First came the gifts. A huge box appeared at the apartment door with Oliver's name on it. "Mom," Oliver yelled, "there's a giant box here. Could it be from Grant?" Emily looked at the sender, felt her stomach turn. "It's not from Grant, sweetie." "Then who's it from?" "From your father." Oliver looked at the box as if it might explode. "What's inside?" "I don't know. Do you want to open it?" Oliver thought for a moment. A long moment for an 8-year-old. "No," he said finally. "Gifts don't fix broken things. Only the person who broke them can fix them." Emily felt her heart squeeze with pride and sadness at the same time. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. Adults just don't pay attention." Lucas's gift arrived the next day. A brand new video game still in the box. Derek showed up with it. "Hey, champ," he said, smiling as if 2 years hadn't passed. "You like it?" Lucas looked at the video game, then at his father, then back at the video game. "I already have one," he said. "This one is better. It's the new release. Mine is good enough. But Lucas, Mom gave it to me by working. While you were where again?" "Oh right, nowhere." Derek blinked. "Son, I know you're angry. I'm not angry. Anger is for when you care. I'm just tired." "Tired of what?" "Of you showing up, promising things, and disappearing again. It's always the same cycle. You don't change. You just pretend to change until you get what you want." "Lucas, that's not fair." "You know what's not fair?" Lucas took a step forward. "Having to make up excuses for my little brother every time Dad doesn't show up at his birthday." Again, Derek was silent. "You know what's not fair?" Lucas continued. "Watching Mom work double shifts while you chase your dreams in another city. You know what's not fair? Having a stranger show up every now and then pretending to be a father. I am your father." "No, you're the guy who shows up when it's convenient. A father is something else. A father is someone who stays. And you never stayed." Emily appeared at the door. She had heard everything. "Derek," she said, her voice firm. "Leave." I just want." "I don't care what you want. You heard what Lucas said, and he's right. Every word. You're pushing me away from my kids." "No, Derek, you pushed yourself away. Years ago. I'm just stopping pretending that one day you'll really come back." Derek looked from Emily to Lucas, at the video game box thrown on the floor, at everything he had lost. "This isn't over," he said. "It's been over for a long time. You just didn't realize it." He left. This time Emily knew it was for good, but the victory tasted bitter. Because while she was fighting the ghost of the past, the present was slipping through her fingers. On the other side of the country, Sloan was standing at the door of Grant's office. He was on the phone, as always, typing on the computer at the same time. Multitasking, efficiency, productivity, all the words he used to justify his absence. "Dad," she called. He raised a finger. "1 minute." "Dad," she repeated. "Sloan, I'm on an important call." "You're always on an important call." Something in her tone made Grant pause. He looked at his daughter. Really looked, for the first time in weeks. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone and hung up. "What is it?" "What is it?" Sloan crossed her arms. "Are you seriously asking? I don't understand." "Of course you don't understand. You never understand, because you're too busy to pay attention." "Sloan, I have a company to—" "You always have a company. You always have meetings. You always have excuses." Her voice started to break. "You promised, Dad." "Promised what?" "That it would be different." Sloan yelled. "At the resort, you promised you would try, that you would be present, that you would be the father I needed." Grant was silent. "And what did you do?" she continued. "The same thing as always. Work, work, work. Emily calls and you don't answer. The boys want a video chat and you're in a meeting. I try to talk and you're answering emails. I was trying to balance. You weren't trying anything. You were doing exactly what you've always done, running away, hiding behind work so you don't have to deal with real things. Grant felt the words like a punch. You promised her, Sloane said, quieter now. You promised me, and you broke it. Again. Sloane, Mom would be so disappointed in you. The silence that followed was deafening. Sloane wiped away a tear. I was rooting for you, you know. When you started dating Emily, I was happy. Because I thought, finally he's going to start living again. But you didn't. You just found another person to disappoint. She left the office. Grant stood there staring at the empty chair and realized with painful clarity that he had become exactly what he promised not to be. He grabbed his phone, called Emily. Ring, ring, ring. Voicemail. Tried again. Voicemail. And again. Voicemail. A message arrived. His heart stopped. Grant, I need some time to think. These last few weeks have been hard. You're getting more and more distant, and I don't know what to expect anymore. Maybe we rushed into this. I'm sorry. Grant read the message once, twice, 3 times. Each word hurt more than the last. He had promised to be different, had promised to show up, had promised she wouldn't be just another story. And what did he do? Exactly what everyone expected. Exactly what he always did. He ran. Grant looked at the office around him, at the awards on the walls, at the reports on the desk, at everything he had built, and realized that none of it mattered. None of it made him feel what he felt that week at the resort. Building sandcastles, learning video games, dancing under the stars, living. He had forgotten how to live, and when he finally remembered, he let it slip away. But there was still time. There had to be. Grant stood up, grabbed his coat, and for the first time in weeks, left the office before 10 at night. He had a promise to keep, and this time he wasn't going to run. Emily had already given up on all this craziness. At least that's what she kept telling herself every day. It was easier that way. Safer, less painful. The bookstore was quiet that Tuesday afternoon, the kind of quiet that leaves too much room for thoughts. And Emily's thoughts always went to the same place. Grant. After that message, he had tried to call, many times. She didn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, but because she needed time. Time to understand what she felt. Time to decide if she wanted to keep being disappointed. And then gradually, the calls decreased. The messages got shorter. And Emily convinced herself she had made the right decision. Some stories just didn't have happy endings. Mom, you're sighing again, Oliver said, appearing between the shelves. I wasn't sighing. Yes, you were. I count the sighs. You've already sighed 7 times today, and it's only 3 in the afternoon. Oliver, shouldn't you be doing homework? I finished. All of it, the important part. What part is the important part? The part I wanted to do. Emily rolled her eyes, but couldn't hide her smile. You're impossible. Thank you. I try. The bookstore door opened. Emily didn't even look. It was probably some customer looking for a specific book that had been out of print for years. Mom? Mom. Emily looked at Oliver. He was standing in the middle of the store, eyes wide, pointing at the door. They're here. Who's here? Oliver, what are you? And then she saw. Lucas was at the door, smiling. Really smiling, the kind she hadn't seen in weeks. Mom, you need to come outside. Lucas, what's going on? Just come, please. Emily dropped the books she was organizing, walked to the door, felt her heart racing without knowing why, and when she stepped out onto the sidewalk, she stopped. Grant was there. Grant Callahan standing on a Brooklyn sidewalk next to a car. Sloane was beside him, with a smile Emily had never seen before. And Grant was holding a sign, a handwritten sign with crooked letters that had clearly been made by Oliver. San Francisco is waiting for you. Come live with us? Emily blinked. Once? Twice? What is this? Grant took a step forward. It's a proposal. A proposal for what? For family. Emily looked at her kids. Oliver was practically bouncing with anticipation. Lucas had his arms crossed, but his eyes were shining. You knew about this? For a week? Oliver yelled. A whole week? Do you have any idea how hard it was to keep a secret? I almost lost it like 50 times. It's true, Lucas confirmed. He almost told you at Sunday breakfast and on Tuesday and Wednesday and basically every day. I'm terrible at secrets, Mom. Terrible. It was pure suffering. Emily couldn't process it. She looked at Grant. You came from San Francisco? This morning. To ask me to move? To ask all 3 of you to move. With me and Sloane. But how? I have the bookstore. The boys have school. Our lives are here. Grant moved closer. I know, and I know I messed everything up. I promised I would be different and did exactly what I always do. Ran to work, hid. Disappointed you. Grant, let me finish, please. Emily nodded. When you sent that message, I thought you were right, that we had rushed into this, that it was better this way. And what changed? Sloane told me I was being a coward. He looked at his daughter. Those exact words. Sloane shrugged. I told the truth. She said if I let you go without fighting, I would regret it for the rest of my life. And she was right. So you bought tickets and came to get me? Not exactly. Grant pointed to the car. I bought a house. Emily blinked. What do you mean? A house in San Francisco, big enough for 5 people, with a yard for Oliver to run around in, and an office that can become a mini bookstore if you want. And separate rooms for Lucas and Sloane, because Sloane said sharing a room would be unacceptable. That's what I said, Sloane confirmed. You bought a house? Emily repeated, still not processing. And Sloane researched the best schools in the neighborhood. And I talked to a bookstore chain in San Francisco that's looking for an experienced manager. If you want. If you don't want to, you can do something else, or do nothing. I don't care. I just want you there. With me. Sloane added, I want you there too, especially you. She looked at Emily. You were the first person who really listened to me, and I missed that. Emily felt her eyes sting. You planned all of this? Sloane helped me. Actually, she did most of it. I just signed the checks. Someone had to organize it, Sloane said. Oliver tugged at Emily's sleeve. Mom, you're gonna say yes, right? Because if you say no, I'm gonna have an emotional breakdown. I don't know what that is, but Lucas said it's serious. Oliver, and I already told everyone at school that we're going to live with Grant, and that I'm going to have a sister, and that I'm going to see dolphins every day. San Francisco doesn't have dolphins every day, Oliver, Lucas said. It's nearby, and I'm going to find Fernando. Fernando was in Florida. Dolphins swim. He could have moved. Emily laughed, a laugh wet with tears. Grant took another step. He held her hand. Emily Jensen, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, and I know you have every right to say no. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving until you give me an answer. It can be today, tomorrow, next week. I'll wait as long as it takes. And if the answer is no, then I'll be sad. Very sad. But I'll respect it, because I love you enough to let you choose. Emily stopped. You said you love me? Grant blinked. I did? You did. Oh, he seemed genuinely surprised at himself. I hadn't planned to say it like that. I had a speech prepared. It was beautiful. It had metaphors. Metaphors? About sandcastles and new beginnings, and how sometimes the biggest mistakes become the biggest blessings. Sounds like a good speech. It was, but I ruined it. You didn't ruin it. I didn't? Emily smiled. That smile Grant hadn't seen in weeks. That smile he had missed every day. No, she said. You just did it the Grant Callahan way. Awkward, confused, and completely imperfect. Is that a compliment? It's the best compliment you're going to get. Grant laughed. So, is that a yes? Emily looked at her kids, at Sloane, at the crooked sign in Grant's hands, at everything it meant. A new city, a new life, a new family. It was scary. It was uncertain. It was completely crazy. It's a yes, she said. Mom said yes. Oliver yelled, running in circles. She said yes? Lucas? Sloane? She said yes. We heard, Oliver, Lucas said, but he was smiling. We're going to live together. We're going to be a family. We're going to see Fernando. Fernando is in Florida, 3 voices said at the same time. You don't know anything about dolphin migration. Grant pulled Emily into a hug. She rested her head on his shoulder. You bought a house? She said. I know. Without asking me, I know. That's very presumptuous. I know. Do you want to return it? Emily laughed against his shoulder. No, I want to see it. It has a yard. You mentioned that. And a balcony. For us to look at the ocean is far away, but you can see the neighbor watering her plants. It's almost the same thing. Emily pulled back to look at him. I love you too, you know. You know? Yeah, I just hadn't planned to say it like that. Did you also have a speech prepared? With metaphors and everything. About what? About how I thought I would never fall in love again, and how a booking error changed everything. Grant smiled. The best mistake of my life. The best mistake of our lives. Family isn't about who shares the same last name. It's about who chooses to stay. And sometimes destiny's biggest mistakes become life's greatest blessings. If you felt that too, leave in the comments the rating you would give this story. And if you believe everyone needs to hear that it's never too late for a new beginning, subscribe to our channel. Because sometimes life puts you in the wrong place just to show you the right family.